Excuse me, what exactly are you doing in this
I'm
neighborhood?
sorry, what? I'm just walking to my car.
Don't act dumb. This is a private community and I know you don't belong here.
Ma'am, this is a public street. I live 3 houses down from here.
I'm calling the police. You are way too
You're free
suspicious.
to call whoever you like.
Real estate attorney Monica Jefferson thought she was just coming home from her Saturday morning yoga class. She had no idea that the next 23 minutes would completely destroy Linda Patterson's reputation, cost her a six-figure settlement, and turn her into the most hated woman on the internet. The neighborhood CCTV camera was silently recording when Linda's true nature came pouring out like poison from a broken bottle. And when the footage hit social media 18 hours later, it wouldn't just ruin one racist woman's life. It would spark a national conversation about entitlement, privilege, and what happens when people think their skin color gives them the right to police other people's existence. Before we dive into this absolutely insane story, please hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you're gonna wanna follow this channel after you see what happens when this Linda realizes she just picked a fight with the wrong person. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, because this story is gonna leave you speechless. Monica Jefferson was 39 years old and one of the most successful real estate attorneys in Atlanta. She specialized in discrimination cases, fair housing violations, and had built her career on fighting exactly the kind of prejudice she was about to experience firsthand. Monica lived in the Brookhaven Hills subdivision, an upscale neighborhood where houses started at $800,000, and many residents seemed to think their property values gave them the authority to interrogate anyone who didn't look like them. She had bought her house 4 years earlier, a beautiful colonial with a 3-car garage and a yard her 2 daughters loved playing in. On this particular Saturday morning, Monica had just finished her weekly hot yoga class at the studio downtown. She was wearing black leggings, a gray athletic tank top, and carrying her yoga mat and water bottle. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she looked exactly like what she was, a successful professional woman getting some exercise on her day off. Linda Patterson lived 2 streets over from Monica, in a slightly smaller house that she'd inherited from her parents. At 57 years old, Linda had never worked outside the home, spending her days managing her husband's dental practice and what she called keeping an eye on the neighborhood. What that really meant was calling the police on black delivery drivers, questioning Hispanic landscaping crews, and generally making life miserable for anyone she deemed suspicious. Linda's racist behavior hadn't developed overnight. She had grown up in an all-white suburb where her parents regularly made disparaging comments about those people moving into good neighborhoods. Her worldview had been shaped by decades of paranoid social media posts and a social circle that reinforced her belief that she was protecting property values by policing who belonged where. In the past year alone, Linda had called the police on a black teenager delivering newspapers, a Latino family having a barbecue in the park, and an Asian woman who was lost and asking for directions. Each time, she genuinely believed she was being a good neighbor. Her husband, Dr. Richard Patterson, had grown uncomfortable with Linda's behavior, but lacked the courage to confront her directly. He didn't realize how serious the problem had become until it was too late. Linda had been watching Monica walk down Maple Street for the past 5 minutes, following her in her white Mercedes SUV at a slow crawl. In Linda's mind, a black woman walking through her neighborhood was automatically suspicious. She had built up an entire narrative. This woman was probably casing houses, looking for security weaknesses. The fact that Monica was carrying a yoga mat didn't register as evidence of innocent activity. When Monica stopped at her own car parked outside the community mailboxes, Linda saw her opportunity. She pulled up behind Monica's BMW, got out of her Mercedes, and approached with the kind of aggressive confidence that comes from a lifetime of never being told no. "Excuse me, what exactly are you doing in this neighborhood?" Linda demanded, her voice loud enough that several neighbors looked out their windows. Monica turned around, surprised by the hostile tone. She had been unlocking her car and was just about to head home to spend the day with her family. "I'm sorry, what? I'm just walking to my car." Linda crossed her arms and stepped closer. "Don't act dumb. This is a private community, and I know you don't belong here." Monica felt her heart rate increase, not from fear, but from the familiar anger that came when someone questioned her right to exist in spaces she had every right to occupy. "Ma'am, this is a public street. I live 3 houses down from here." Linda's voice got louder, more threatening. "I'm calling the police. You are way too suspicious." Monica stayed calm, but her voice took on an edge. "You're free to call whoever you'd like. I'll be right here." By now, other residents had come out to see what was happening. The Johnson family had paused their Saturday morning jog to watch. 3 teenage boys on bicycles had stopped on the sidewalk. Unknown to both Linda and Monica, the neighborhood's recently installed security camera system was capturing every word and gesture in crystal clear, high definition. Linda held up her phone like a weapon. "Fine, I'm calling 911 right now to report a suspicious person in our neighborhood." Monica crossed her arms and remained calm. "Go ahead and make that call. Everyone here can witness you harassing me for walking to my own car in my own neighborhood. I have every right to call the police when I see someone who doesn't belong," Linda snapped. "And everyone here has the right to see you make a fool of yourself," Monica replied calmly. Linda began dialing, her fingers shaking slightly with rage. "I'm reporting someone who's acting suspicious, refusing to identify herself, and being confrontational." "Ma'am," Monica said, her voice taking on a professional tone, "before you make that call, you might want to think about what you're going to tell the police. What crime am I committing? What suspicious behavior have you observed? Walking to my car with a yoga mat?" Linda paused in her dialing. She realized she didn't have a good answer to those questions, but pride wouldn't let her back down now. "Put that phone away," Linda snapped. "I have every right to ask questions when I see someone who doesn't belong, and I have every right to walk on public streets without being interrogated by random strangers." Linda's mask was starting to slip. "Random strangers? I'm a homeowner here. I pay taxes here. I have a responsibility to keep this community safe." "Safe from what?" Monica asked. "From me walking to my car with a yoga mat? Safe from people who come here looking for trouble, looking for houses to break into, looking for cars to steal." There it was. Linda had just revealed exactly what she thought about Monica based on nothing but the color of her skin. Monica stared at her for a long moment. "Are you seriously suggesting that I'm here to commit crimes?" Linda doubled down, her phone still in her hand. "I'm saying I don't know who you are or why you're here, and I'm calling the police to find out." "Go ahead and call them," Monica replied firmly. "When they arrive, I'll be happy to show them my driver's license with my address 3 houses down from here. And then I'll ask them to explain to you that walking while black isn't actually a crime." Quick question for you watching. How do you think Monica should handle this situation? Let me know in the comments. Linda was getting more agitated by Monica's calm responses. In her experience, when she confronted people like this, they usually got flustered, made excuses, and left. Monica's refusal to be intimidated was throwing off her entire approach. Linda finally pressed the call button. The crowd of neighbors watched in fascination as she waited for the 911 operator to answer. The security camera continued its silent surveillance, capturing every moment of what was about to become Linda's public humiliation. 911. "What's your emergency?" came the voice through the phone speaker, loud enough for several neighbors to hear. "Yes, I need to report a suspicious person in my neighborhood," Linda said, her voice shaking slightly. "What makes this person suspicious, ma'am?" Linda looked around at the growing crowd of neighbors, many of whom were shaking their heads or looking uncomfortable. She realized she was in a hole and needed to justify her call. She doesn't live here, and she's being confrontational and refusing to leave." "Ma'am, are you on public property or private property?" "Well, it's a public street, but this is a private community." "Is the person threatening you or anyone else?" Linda looked at Monica, who was standing calmly with her yoga mat, watching the situation unfold. No, but ma'am, if someone is on a public street and not committing a crime or making threats, we can't remove them. Is there anything else we can help you with?" The line went quiet. Linda realized that the 911 operator was essentially telling her that she was wasting their time. The neighbors were watching her make a fool of herself on what was essentially a recorded line. "Never mind," Linda said quickly, hanging up the phone. Her face was red with embarrassment and anger. "That didn't go quite like you expected, did it?" Monica said calmly. Linda was trapped between her pride and the reality that her plan had backfired spectacularly. "Look, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is a nice neighborhood full of good families, and we don't need outsiders causing problems." Monica felt the anger building but kept her voice level. "Outsiders? I own a house 3 blocks from here. I've lived in this neighborhood for 4 years. My children go to school with your neighbor's children, but you've decided I don't belong because of how I look." "That's not what this is about," Linda said, but her voice wavered. "Then what is it about? Explain to me exactly what I've done that made you think you had the right to call the police on me for walking to my car." Linda couldn't answer because the only honest answer was racial profiling, and even she wasn't quite ready to say that out loud with neighbors watching and a security camera recording everything from above. This neighborhood has had some break-ins lately, and I was being cautious." Cautious about a woman in yoga clothes walking to her car in broad daylight with a yoga mat and a water bottle, you call 911 because you